In the vast reaches of the galaxy, the Galactic Council was a symbol of power and dominance. Composed of the most advanced species from countless star systems, this council ruled over planets, systems, and entire galaxies. Their technology was beyond anything Earth could imagine. Artificial intelligence controlled entire civilizations, starships could travel at unimaginable speeds, and weapons capable of wiping out whole worlds were commonplace. On one particular day, a meeting of the Council took place on their home planet, an alien world of glimmering cities and towering structures. The Council had summoned representatives from various galactic powers, and all eyes were focused on the humans, the newcomers to the galactic stage. Earth had recently made contact with the galaxy's elite, and despite their ambitious advances, humanity was still seen as a primitive species. The aliens had laughed at Earth's attempts at space travel, its meager technological inventions, and its rather humble military forces. At this meeting, the leader of the Galactic Council, a cold and calculating alien named Sarnek, looked down upon the humans with disdain. Sarnek's species, the Xiphorians, were one of the oldest and most technologically advanced races in the galaxy. They had explored distant star systems, built vast empires, and even harnessed energy from black holes. The Xiphorians were at the pinnacle of evolution, or so they believed. As Karnak addressed the assembly, his voice echoed through the grand chamber. The humans, Sarnek sneered, are nothing more than a speck in the galaxy. Their technology, laughable at best, could barely keep them alive on their own world, let alone pose any threat to us. We should not waste our time with them. The council members murmured in agreement. They had all seen Earth's technology firsthand. The humans had barely developed spacefaring technology and had only recently begun exploring the stars. Their starships were far slower than the hyperspeed ships of the galactic elites, and their weapons were primitive compared to the destructive powers the Council wielded. An alien named Zorith, a towering being with shimmering skin, added, "Their best weapon is nothing more than a clumsy missile. Their energy sources are weak. They are not worthy of our attention." The room erupted in laughter. The Xiphorians and their allies, all more advanced than Earth, saw humanity as nothing more than a curious novelty. There was no reason to fear the humans. They were a species that had only begun to crawl out of their primitive stone age, and the Council had no plans of paying any further attention to them. Meanwhile, back on Earth, a young engineer named Alex Carter was working tirelessly on an invention that he believed could change the world. Alex was no ordinary engineer. He had developed a unique energy source, a crystal capable of generating enormous amounts of power. This energy crystal, if successful, could power entire cities, starships, and more. However, he had no idea that his work would soon be the key to humanity's survival and the catalyst for an intergalactic shift in power. Alex was in his workshop, a small room filled with high-tech gadgets, blueprints, and equipment. He held the crystal in his hand, its surface shimmering with an otherworldly glow. He had spent years working on this technology, experimenting with different materials and theories. The moment he had first activated it, he had been astounded by the results. The crystal's energy output was far beyond anything he could have imagined, far more potent than any known human technology. Just as Alex began another round of tests, a call came in from the Global Scientific Coalition, an organization that connected Earth's leading researchers. The voice on the other end crackled, filled with urgency. "Alex, you need to see this. The Galactic Council has issued a report. They're planning an attack on Earth. We need to get you and your research out of there." Alex froze. The Galactic Council. His heart raced. The very same beings who had dismissed Earth as irrelevant were now planning to destroy humanity. He couldn't believe it. "Why?" Alex asked, trying to remain calm. "They say we're a threat to their power," the voice replied. "They fear our advancements. If they think we've discovered something they don't have, they'll come for us." Alex's hands shook as he stared at the crystal. The thought of an alien invasion was terrifying, but even more frightening was the idea that humanity's potential was being underestimated. How could they fear Earth's technology when they had barely scratched the surface of what humans were capable of? Back in the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, Sarnak stood at the center of the room, preparing to address the assembly once again. This time, however, his tone was different. There was a hint of concern in his voice. "While it is true that we have no reason to fear the humans," he began, "their recent attempts to develop energy sources, it is something to keep an eye on. It would be foolish to ignore them completely." Zorath, who had previously mocked Earth's technology, raised an eyebrow. "Are you suggesting that they have something of value? I thought their technology was laughable." Zarnak nodded slowly. "Perhaps it is, but we cannot take the risk of them stumbling upon something that could be a threat. We must remain vigilant." The council members exchanged glances, some beginning to question their earlier dismissals of the humans. They were aware of the potential dangers that could arise from a technologically advanced species in their infancy. They had seen it happen before. Lesser species that, once they discovered the key to energy, had evolved into powerful empires. Sarnak knew this. The Zyphorians, with all their power, had been faced with such threats before, and they knew how dangerous a rising power could be. Meanwhile, Alex continued his work in secret. He was determined to complete his project, not for fame or recognition, but for the survival of humanity. He knew that if the Galactic Council found out about his energy crystal, they would want it for themselves, and they wouldn't hesitate to take it by force. But Alex had one advantage. They had underestimated Earth's potential. As Alex worked, he couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was coming. The news had spread quickly. There were rumors of fleets of alien warships gathering at the edge of the solar system, preparing to launch a devastating strike on Earth. And though the Galactic Council had dismissed humanity's technology as primitive, Alex knew that his invention could change everything. He wasn't just working on an energy source. He was working on a weapon that could alter the balance of power in the galaxy. The countdown to the impending alien invasion was ticking. The Galactic Council had no idea what they were about to face. But Alex Carter was about to show them the true power of humanity, and it would be a power they could never have anticipated. The silence in the vast command center of the Galactic Council's fleet was deafening. The room was filled with towering alien figures, some humanoid, others bizarre, and entirely foreign. All were united by one purpose: to end the threat that Earth posed to their vast empire. Despite their technological superiority, they had failed to fully understand the danger humanity represented. Earth's technology was still in its early stages, but the humans had discovered something beyond the comprehension of these advanced civilizations: the ability to generate infinite, clean energy. The Galactic Council had decided that Earth's energy source, the crystal developed by Alex Carter, was too dangerous to be allowed to continue. If the humans could harness that power, it would only be a matter of time before they became a serious threat to the entire galaxy. A massive fleet of warships, armed with devastating weapons and cloaking technology, was already en route to Earth. They had come to take the crystal by force. There would be no negotiations. Back on Earth, the mood was tense. Alex Carter knew that the moment the Galactic Council discovered the true power of his invention, humanity would be in grave danger. He had been working on the energy crystal for years, but now, the stakes had never been higher. He couldn't let the aliens get their hands on it. The world's fate rested on his shoulders. Alex was in his lab, pacing nervously as he tried to think of a plan. His fingers brushed over the surface of the crystal, which rested on his workbench. It pulsed faintly, as if aware of the impending danger. The glowing crystal had the potential to save humanity, but also the ability to destroy everything if it fell into the wrong hands. Alex knew that he had to protect it, no matter the cost. The door to his lab suddenly opened, and Captain Emily Hayes, the leader of the Earth Defense Forces, entered. She was a tough, determined woman, her sharp features and intense eyes giving away her no-nonsense attitude. Emily had been briefed on the situation, and she had a plan of her own. Earth had never faced a galactic enemy of this scale before, but Emily had been trained for moments like this. "We don't have much time," Emily said as she walked toward Alex. "The alien fleet is approaching fast. We got about 24 hours before they arrive, and if we don't act quickly, Earth could be wiped out." Alex's heart raced. What do? We don't have the firepower to stand up to them. Emily hesitated for a moment, then looked Alex in the eyes. "We're not going to fight them with weapons. We're going to fight them with what they fear the most, our ingenuity. We'll make them see that Earth is not as weak as they think." Alex was skeptical, but didn't argue. He knew Emily was a skilled strategist, and if anyone could come up with a plan to stop the invasion, it was her. He glanced at the crystal again. He had never considered using it as a weapon, but perhaps that was exactly what they needed right now. Emily continued, "I've assembled a team of the best engineers and soldiers. We're going to fortify the crystal and create a defense system around it. We'll use its power to hold off the aliens long enough for us to turn the tide. We'll make them regret underestimating humanity." The idea of using the crystal to defend Earth felt both exciting and terrifying. Alex had always viewed the energy crystal as a way to improve life on Earth, not as a weapon. But if it meant saving the planet, he knew he had no choice. He had to trust Emily's plan. As the clock ticked down, the Earth Defense Forces worked tirelessly to prepare for the alien assault. The crystal was taken to a heavily guarded underground facility, where a team of engineers and scientists, including Alex, worked day and night to harness its power. The goal was to build a shield strong enough to protect Earth's cities, with the crystal serving as the energy source to fuel the entire defense system. Alex spent long hours in the lab, modifying the crystal's structure to harness its energy more efficiently. The crystal's core was far more advanced than anything humanity had ever seen. But its power was unstable, unpredictable. If mishandled, it could cause catastrophic damage. The thought of using it in combat weighed heavily on Alex's conscience. One evening, as Alex was working alone in the lab, his thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps behind him. He turned to find Rylek, the alien defector, standing in the doorway. Rylek had been sent by the Galactic Council to spy on Earth, but after seeing the humans' bravery and potential, he had chosen to switch sides. "I've been monitoring the fleet's movements," Rylek said in his deep, calm voice. "They'll be here within hours. The Council believes they can wipe you out with their firepower. They have no idea what they're walking into." Alex glanced at the crystal and then back at Rylek. "You think we can stand a chance?" Rylek smiled, though it was a sad smile. "The Zyphorians are powerful, yes, but they are also arrogant. They think they have nothing to fear from Earth. They think you are weak. But I know what your species is capable of." Alex felt a flicker of hope. "Then let's show them." Rylek placed his hand on Alex's shoulder. "I'll fight alongside you. We've seen what you can do when your backs are against the wall. That's when humans are at their best." With renewed determination, Alex and Rylek joined forces with Emily and the rest of the Earth Defense Forces. Together, they worked to complete the energy shield, a defense mechanism unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The shield would be powered by the energy crystal, creating an impenetrable barrier around the most critical areas of Earth. But the real test would be whether it could stand up to the alien warships. Hours later, the alien fleet arrived. Thousands of warships, cloaked in darkness, descended upon Earth's atmosphere, their engines glowing ominously in the sky. The first wave of ships opened fire on Earth's cities, launching energy blasts that tore through buildings and sent shockwaves rippling across the planet's surface. But the defense system held. As the alien ships neared, the energy shield, powered by the crystal, activated, creating a powerful force field that absorbed and deflected the incoming blasts. For the first time, the alien fleet encountered resistance. "Deploy the countermeasures." Emily barked into her communicator as the battle intensified. Earth's fighter jets, now equipped with the alien technology they had reverse-engineered from Rylak, soared into the sky. They engaged the alien ships in dogfights, their weapons powered by the energy crystal's unmatched power. Alex, standing alongside Rylak and Emily, watched in awe as humans, armed with nothing but sheer determination and the energy from the crystal, held their ground. The alien fleet was not prepared for this kind of fight. They had expected Earth to crumble under the weight of their advanced weaponry. But the humans were fighting back with everything they had. As alien ships fell from the sky, the Council's commanders began to panic. They had underestimated the human resolve. The battle raged for hours, but the Earth Defense Forces continued to hold their ground. Rylak and the others worked to coordinate the efforts, and Alex watched as humanity's greatest strength, their unwillingness to give up, became their most potent weapon. But just as the tide seemed to turn in humanity's favor, the Galactic Council launched their final assault. A massive warship, the size of a city, emerged from the shadows of space. It was equipped with enough firepower to wipe out entire continents in a single blast. The energy shield struggled to hold, as the crystal was being pushed to its limits. "We need to overload the shield's power," Alex shouted, rushing to the control panel. "If we can unleash the full power of the crystal, we might be able to take that ship down." Emily nodded. "Do it." Alex hesitated for a moment, his heart pounding. The energy crystal was unstable at full power. It could destroy everything if he wasn't careful. But there was no time to think. He activated the crystal's full potential, releasing an energy wave so powerful that it rippled across the sky. The alien warship, the symbol of the Galactic Council's might, was engulfed by the blast. The shield faltered for a moment before exploding with blinding light. When the light faded, the warship was no more. It had been destroyed, and with it, the Council's hopes of crushing humanity. As the smoke cleared, Alex and Rylak stood together, watching as the remaining alien ships retreated, their forces scattered and in disarray. Earth had won. Against all odds, humanity had made its stand, proving that they were no longer a weak, helpless species. They had defended their planet and their future. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, the Galactic Council saw Earth in a new light. They had underestimated humanity, and they would never make that mistake again. The Galactic Empire had always been known for its strength, its dominance, and its unshakable power. For centuries, it had ruled over countless planets, crushing any species that dared to defy it. The Empire's technology was far beyond that of any race in the galaxy, and its military might seemed unbeatable. However, the sudden and unexpected defeat at the hands of humanity had caused a ripple effect throughout the entire Galactic Empire. For the first time in their history, they were facing a crisis of unprecedented scale. Inside the vast war room of the Imperial capital, the leaders of the Galactic Empire were in turmoil. The once proud leaders, now caught off guard by humanity's defiance, had gathered to discuss how to handle the disaster that had befallen them. At the head of the table sat Emperor Raylan, a towering figure whose skin shimmered with an eerie metallic sheen. His sharp eyes scanned the room, filled with fear and confusion. His once confident, calm demeanor was now replaced with anxiety. The loss of the warship and the energy shield that had protected Earth was something the Empire had not planned for. Humanity had somehow managed to outwit their most advanced technologies, and now the question was, how could they fix this? "We cannot let this stand," Emperor Raylan said, his voice cold and commanding, but there was a noticeable hint of desperation in it. "The human race has shown that they are not to be underestimated. They have defeated us in battle. They have taken our most advanced warship, and they've proven they can harness our technologies. If we don't act quickly, they will soon become a real threat to the entire galaxy." The other Imperial leaders nodded in agreement, their faces pale with fear. The news of humanity's unexpected resistance was spreading like wildfire through the Empire's vast communication network. The once unchallenged Galactic Empire was now on the brink of collapse, and their pride had been severely wounded. One of the Empire's generals, General Kreth, stood up, a hulking alien with armored skin and a long snake-like tail. He was known for his ruthlessness in battle, and he had a reputation for never losing a war. But now his confidence seemed shaken. "Emperor, we've underestimated humanity. They've developed technology that we cannot predict. I propose we send another fleet, a much larger one, and crush their defenses once and for all." The Emperor looked at him, his eyes narrowing. "And what if they're prepared for us? What if they've learned our tactics? If we send another fleet, and they wipe it out as well, the Empire will be finished. The galaxy will see us as weak, and our enemies will rise up against us." There was a brief silence in the room. The thought of defeat was unthinkable to most of the Empire's leaders. They had ruled over the galaxy for centuries, and the idea of being overthrown by a race as young and inexperienced as humanity seemed impossible. But the recent events had shattered their belief in their own invincibility. "We must adapt," Emperor Raylon said, his voice trembling with uncertainty. "We must learn from this defeat. Humanity's greatest weapon is not their technology, it's their unpredictability. They don't fight like we do. They don't think like we do. That's what makes them dangerous. We cannot fight them using our old strategies. We must find a way to understand their tactics and use it against them." But General Kreth was not convinced. "We should eliminate them before they become any more of a threat. If we give them time to grow stronger, we may find ourselves fighting a war we cannot win." The debate raged on for hours, with leaders and generals arguing fiercely. Some believed in a direct, overwhelming attack, while others believed that a more measured approach was needed. In the end, the Emperor made a decision that would change the course of the war. "We will send a smaller, more covert force to Earth," Emperor Raylon said finally, his voice laced with resolve. "We will infiltrate their defenses, learn their weaknesses, and destroy them from within. It's time we play their game." Back on Earth, Alex Carter, Captain Emily Hayes, and the rest of the Earth Defense Forces were preparing for the next phase of the war. After the initial success, they had hoped for some relief. But the reality was that the Galactic Empire was not going to let this defeat go unpunished. They knew the aliens would return, and when they did, they would be more dangerous than ever. "Alex, we've got a problem," Emily said as she approached him in the command center. Her face was grave, her eyes reflecting the stress of the past few days. "We've intercepted communications from the Galactic Empire. They're planning another assault. But this time, they're changing their tactics. They're sending a smaller force, more covered, more dangerous." Alex's stomach dropped. He knew what that meant. The Empire had learned from their previous mistake. This time, they wouldn't underestimate humanity. They would come prepared, and they would come with a vengeance. "We need to get ready," Alex said, his voice determined. "We've been given a second chance, and we can't waste it." Emily nodded. "I've already started moving our forces into position. We need to strengthen our defenses and make sure the crystal is safe. If they manage to get their hands on it, Earth is done for." The crystal, the very source of Earth's power, had become the focal point of the war. It was humanity's greatest weapon, but it was also their greatest vulnerability. The Galactic Empire knew that if they could control the crystal, they could control Earth, and they would have the power to dominate the galaxy once again. Alex felt a chill run down his spine as he thought about what was at stake. He had created the crystal to help humanity, to provide a limitless source of clean energy. But now it had become a weapon that could either save or destroy everything. As the days passed, the tension on Earth grew. The Galactic Empire's covert force had arrived, and they were working in the shadows, infiltrating Earth's defenses and preparing for the moment when they would strike. The Earth Defense Forces were on high alert, but the enemy was more elusive than ever. The covert strike team was made up of highly trained soldiers, experts in stealth and sabotage. They knew how to bypass the most advanced security systems, and they had already begun to dismantle key parts of Earth's defense network. "Alex, we've got a problem," Emily said again, her voice filled with urgency. "They're already inside. We've lost contact with several key installations." Alex didn't need to hear more. He understood the situation completely. The Galactic Empire was playing their game, hiding in the shadows, striking when least expected. It was exactly what he had feared. "We can't let them get to the crystal," Alex said. "If they do, everything we've worked for will be gone." Emily nodded grimly. "We'll increase security around the crystal, but we need to find out where they're coming from and stop them before they can do any more damage." The next few days were a blur of tension, anxiety, and uncertainty. Earth's forces fought to track down the infiltrators, while the Empire's covert team continued to disrupt Earth's defenses. But the longer they stayed hidden, the more difficult it became to predict their moves. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were losing control. Every moment, the Empire was getting closer to their goal, closer to the crystal, closer to victory. And if they succeeded, humanity's hope for survival would be dashed forever. In the heart of the Galactic Empire, the leaders were watching the events unfold from their war room, their eyes fixed on the progress of the covert operation. For them, this was a game where the stakes were higher than ever. The fate of the galaxy was at risk, and if humanity was allowed to continue its rise, it could change everything. "Humanity is more dangerous than we thought," General Kreth said, his voice filled with admiration and frustration. "Their ingenuity, their unpredictability. It's unlike anything we've ever seen." Emperor Raylon nodded slowly. "And that is why we cannot allow them to succeed. The galaxy must remain under our control. We cannot allow this upstart species to challenge our dominance." As the two forces, the humans and the Empire, prepared for their final confrontation, the stage was set for the ultimate battle. Would humanity's ingenuity be enough to overcome the overwhelming power of the Galactic Empire, or would the Empire crush Earth once and for all? The battle for Earth had reached a boiling point. As the Galactic Empire's covert force continued to infiltrate Earth's defenses, the tension on both sides was palpable. For the Earth Defense Forces, it was no longer just a fight for survival. It was a fight against an enemy that had underestimated them once, and now they were fighting back with everything they had. But despite their courage and determination, a darker, more dangerous force was lurking within their ranks. Captain Alex Carter paced in the command center, his thoughts racing. After months of battle, they were finally beginning to make progress against the Empire's infiltration. But Alex knew that the victory they sought was not yet within reach. The Galactic Empire was playing the long game, using stealth and sabotage to cripple Earth's defenses. They had already learned from their previous failures, and they weren't making the same mistake twice. The situation was growing worse by the day. The Empire's covert strike team was everywhere, disabling key military outposts, planting false information, and creating chaos within Earth's ranks. No one was sure where the next strike would come from. And even more concerning, the Empire had sent an additional unit of spies to Earth. This new unit was rumored to have the ability to blend in with human society, making it nearly impossible to detect them. As the team gathered around the briefing table, Alex's mind kept returning to one particular piece of intelligence that had shaken him to his core. A trusted officer, Lieutenant Sarah Vasquez, had been acting strangely. She was one of their best and most loyal soldiers. She had fought alongside Alex through every battle, and he trusted her implicitly. But recently, there had been subtle signs that she wasn't quite herself. Her communication was more distant, her actions less focused, and her eyes, once filled with fierce determination, now carried a look of uncertainty. Alex couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that something was wrong. It was late in the evening when the first signs of betrayal came to light. The city of New Haven, one of Earth's largest military bases, had been attacked. It wasn't the result of a full-scale assault from the Galactic Empire, but rather a coordinated strike from within. Explosions rocked the base, and security systems went offline in a matter of minutes. Chaos erupted as soldiers scrambled to respond, but it was clear. Someone had inside knowledge of the base's weaknesses. Alex and Emily Hayes rushed to the command center to assess the situation. As they arrived, the scene was one of confusion. Soldiers were scrambling to regain control, while emergency teams worked to put out fires and rescue the injured. The attack had been swift, and the damage was catastrophic. "Alex, we have to find out who did this," Emily said, her voice strained. "This was no ordinary attack. This was planned." Alex nodded. He could feel his chest tighten. The base was one of the most secure locations on Earth. There was no way this could have happened without someone on the inside. He turned to Lieutenant Sarah, who had been nearby, helping to organize the response. "Lieutenant, get a team together. We need to investigate this. Find out who's behind it," Alex ordered. Sarah hesitated for a moment, something in her eyes that Alex couldn't quite place, but she nodded and quickly moved to gather a team. The unease in Alex's chest grew heavier. There was something off about the whole situation. He had trusted Sarah, but now doubt was creeping in. What if she was involved? As the investigation unfolded, the evidence started to point in a troubling direction. Several of the explosive devices used in the attack had been stolen from Earth's secure military facilities, and the design of the sabotage was disturbingly precise. The attack was not just a random act of violence. It was a calculated attempt to destabilize Earth's defenses. Alex's suspicions only deepened when he discovered that Sarah had been in contact with several unknown individuals in the days leading up to the attack. The connection seemed innocent at first, just routine military communications, but upon closer inspection, they were linked to one of the Galactic Empire's covert operatives. Betrayal had found its way into Earth's heart. Alex confronted Sarah in the aftermath of the attack. They stood in the quiet of a secure room, the weight of the situation pressing down on both of them. "Sarah, I need you to tell me the truth," Alex said, his voice calm but filled with frustration. "Did you have something to do with the attack on New Haven?" Sarah looked away, her gaze lingering on the ground. There was a long pause before she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't want to, but they made me," she said, her words breaking the silence like shards of glass. "They promised me that if I helped them, they would spare my family. They threatened them. I didn't have a choice." Alex's heart sank. The woman who had fought beside him, the one he had trusted more than anyone else, had betrayed them. His mind raced, but he couldn't fully process the revelation. His emotions were a whirlwind of anger, disappointment, and confusion. "They've been using me, Alex. The Galactic Empire. They've been pulling my strings the whole time. They knew I was close to you, and they knew I had access to sensitive information. They didn't give me a choice." Alex took a deep breath, trying to steady his shaking hands. He wanted to lash out, to accuse her of being a traitor, but the pain in her voice, the desperation, held him back. For a moment, he saw her not as a betrayer, but as a woman caught in a web of fear and manipulation. "I'm sorry," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "I didn't want to do it, but I had no choice." Alex looked at her, his mind racing with conflicting thoughts. He didn't know what to say. He had been betrayed by someone he trusted with his life, but at the same time, he could see the fear in Sarah's eyes. She wasn't a cold-blooded traitor. She was a woman who had been forced into a terrible situation. The news of Sarah's betrayal spread quickly through Earth's military ranks. Trust, once the bedrock of their unity, began to crumble. Soldiers who had fought side by side were now questioning each other's loyalties. The Galactic Empire had successfully sown the seeds of doubt and distrust, and the effects were devastating. Captain Emily Hayes stood by Alex's side as they tried to maintain order. "Alex, what do we do now?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. "If they've infiltrated our ranks like this, who can we trust?" Alex looked out the window of the command center, his mind heavy with the weight of the situation. The Empire was playing a dangerous game, and they were winning. They had already managed to turn Earth's greatest strength, its unity, against them. The lines between friend and foe were no longer clear. "We fight," Alex said, his voice filled with determination. "We can't let them win. We can't let them destroy what we've built." But even as Alex spoke those words, he knew that the war had changed. The betrayal had already begun to take its toll. Earth's forces were now fractured, uncertain, and vulnerable. The Galactic Empire had learned how to exploit humanity's weaknesses, and the stage was set for an even more dangerous confrontation. As the investigation into Sarah's betrayal continued, a new and more pressing threat emerged. The Empire's covert operatives, using the chaos of the internal betrayal, had launched a full-scale attack on Earth's remaining defense networks. Their forces were now everywhere, hidden in plain sight, blending in with the population, striking without warning. The fight had become more than just a battle of weapons and technology. It was now a fight for survival in a world where trust had been shattered and betrayal was the new norm. The stakes were higher than ever, and the fate of humanity hung in the balance. Alex knew that the coming days would be the most dangerous of his life. Earth's very existence was at risk, and he would have to fight not only against the Empire's superior technology, but also against the fear and uncertainty that now plagued his own people. The final battle was coming. But who could be trusted in a world where betrayal ran deep? The war for Earth had reached its most critical point. The Galactic Empire, with its advanced technology and ruthless tactics, had pushed humanity to the brink of annihilation. However, the humans had fought back, their courage and determination stronger than ever. Now, with betrayal in their ranks and their forces scattered, Earth had only one last chance to survive. Captain Alex Carter stood on the balcony of the Earth Defense Command Center, staring out at the night sky. The stars twinkled like tiny, distant diamonds, but they no longer brought comfort. The threat of the Galactic Empire loomed large over the planet, and Alex knew that time was running out. Their final strike had to be decisive, or they would lose everything. The defense forces had been rallying, reorganizing after the betrayal that had torn through their ranks. Soldiers, scientists, and engineers worked around the clock, putting their trust in each other to build a last-ditch weapon capable of turning the tide in humanity's favor. But even with their best efforts, there was still a feeling of unease in the air. No one truly knew what to expect from the final showdown. The Empire was known for its overwhelming firepower and cunning strategy. Alex and his team were making their final preparations. The battlefield was set, but the human forces were severely outnumbered. They had to rely on their intelligence and their spirit, not just their weapons. They were fighting not only for their survival but for their families, their homes, and their entire future. "We have one shot at this," Emily Hayes said, as she stood beside Alex in the command center. "If we fail, Earth won't get another chance. It's over." Alex turned to face her, his expression hard and determined. He knew she was right. He had seen the devastation caused by the Empire's earlier attacks. Cities had been reduced to rubble. People had lost everything. This was it, the last stand. "We've trained for this," Alex replied, his voice steady. "We're ready. We have to be." But even as he said the words, a small seed of doubt planted itself in his mind. The Empire had superior technology, vast armies, and a seemingly endless supply of resources. How could they possibly defeat them? Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, the leaders of the Galactic Empire were preparing for their own final assault. The humans had proven far more resilient than they had anticipated. What was supposed to be a quick, easy conquest had turned into a prolonged, costly war. The Empire's patience was wearing thin, and their leaders knew they had to crush Earth's resistance once and for all. Admiral Varen, one of the Empire's top commanders, stood at the helm of the flagship, the Sovereign. The massive ship loomed in the void of space, its dark hull reflecting the cold, distant stars. Varen's eyes burned with the intensity of his desire for victory. He had watched as Earth's cities burned. He had seen the destruction and chaos the Empire had wrought. Now it was time to finish what they had started. "This is the end," Admiral Varen said, his voice low but full of certainty. "We will wipe out Earth and all its pathetic inhabitants. No one will stand in our way." Behind him, the officers and soldiers aboard the Sovereign stood in silent agreement. The Empire had underestimated humanity's will to survive, but they wouldn't make the same mistake twice. They had their fleets positioned, ready to launch the final attack. But even as they prepared, there was a sense of unease among the Empire's ranks. The humans had proven to be more clever and resourceful than anyone had imagined. The moment had come. The air was thick with tension as both sides prepared for the ultimate confrontation. The Sovereign and the rest of the Empire's fleet advanced toward Earth, their weapons primed and ready. In the Defense Command Center, Alex's team watched as the massive ships came into view on their screens. "Here they come," Emily said, her voice tense but focused. "This is it, the final battle." Alex's heart raced. He could feel the weight of the moment. Everything they had worked for, everything they had sacrificed, was leading to this. He took a deep breath, steadying himself for what was to come. Let's make sure they regret ever underestimating humanity. The battle began with a deafening roar. The Sovereign fired its first shots, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts toward Earth's defenses. The sky lit up as Earth's defense systems retaliated, launching missiles and firing energy beams in a desperate attempt to hold back the Empire's fleet. On the surface, Earth's remaining military units scrambled to respond. The Empire's ground forces began landing, unleashing a wave of destruction on the planet's surface. But the humans were ready. They had prepared for this moment. Every soldier, every pilot, and every engineer had been trained to fight with everything they had. Alex was in the thick of it. He led a squadron of fighter jets, weaving through explosions and laser fire as they engaged the Empire's ships. The battle raged on, the sky alive with flashes of light and the sounds of warfare. The air smelled of smoke and burning metal, but Alex's mind was clear. This was humanity's last chance, and he was going to make sure they fought with everything they had. Just when it seemed that the Empire's fleet might overwhelm Earth's defenses, something unexpected happened. The humans had developed a secret weapon, one that had been kept hidden from the Empire. It was their greatest achievement, a technology that the Empire had dismissed as nothing more than fantasy. It was the one thing that could tip the scales in their favor, the Earth's hypercannon. Alex had known about the hypercannon for months, but it was only now that it was ready for activation. The weapon was capable of firing a single shot powerful enough to destroy an entire fleet. But it had never been tested, and there was no guarantee it would work. The scientists who had developed the weapon were confident, but even they were nervous. This was humanity's final hope. "We're ready," the lead scientist said, his voice filled with urgency. Firing in 3, 2, 1. A massive beam of energy shot into space, racing toward the Empire's flagship, the Sovereign. For a moment, time seemed to slow. The beam cut through the darkness like a comet, and then it struck. The Sovereign shuddered, its outer hull cracking as the energy beam tore through it. The massive ship staggered, its systems failing as explosions erupted from within. The Empire's flagship was crippled, its crew struggling to maintain control. But the damage was done. "Direct hit," one of the officers shouted, her voice filled with disbelief. "The Sovereign is down." The destruction of the Sovereign sent shockwaves through the Empire's fleet. The once unified force began to fall apart, their commanders scrambling to regroup. The tide of battle had shifted in humanity's favor. But the cost was great. Many soldiers had fallen. Cities had been destroyed. And as the smoke cleared, Alex realized that victory, though sweet, had come at a terrible price. As the final remnants of the Empire's fleet retreated, Alex stood amidst the wreckage, his eyes scanning the battlefield. Earth had won. But the scars of war would last for generations. "We did it," Emily said, her voice weary but filled with relief. "We won." Alex nodded, his eyes distant. "We did. But at what cost?" The battle was over, but the war had left its mark on everyone. Humanity had faced the greatest threat to its existence and emerged victorious. But the victory felt hollow, overshadowed by the destruction and loss. The Galactic Empire had underestimated humanity's strength, but in the end, it was that very strength that had saved Earth. It was a lesson that the Empire would never forget. And as Alex and his team looked out over the wreckage of the battle, they knew that the cost of this victory would be something they would carry with them forever. But for now, Earth was safe. For now, they had won. The war was over, and Earth had won. The Galactic Empire, once a mighty force that seemed unbeatable, had been defeated. The battle for survival had cost humanity dearly. Cities had been destroyed, countless lives lost, and the planet was scared. But in the ashes of war, there was a spark of hope. This was not the end. It was the beginning of a new era. Captain Alex Carter stood at the podium in the rebuilt Earth Defense Command Center. The room was filled with military leaders, scientists, and diplomats, all there to witness the beginning of something new, something that would shape the future of humanity and its place in the galaxy. The war had brought Earth to the brink of destruction, but it had also shown humanity's resilience, strength, and determination. Now, it was time to rebuild. Alex cleared his throat and addressed the gathered crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have fought a long and hard battle. Our planet has been tested in ways we never imagined. We've faced threats we couldn't have dreamed of, but we've survived. We've proven that humanity is not only capable of standing up to any challenge, but we can rise from the ashes and create something better." The room was silent for a moment as the weight of his words sank in. The war had been brutal, but it had also united humanity in a way that had never been seen before. It had brought together people from all corners of the Earth, and now, in the aftermath, they stood united once again. Alex continued, "But the victory we've achieved is not just about survival. It's about what comes next. The destruction we've witnessed cannot be undone, but we have the power to rebuild, to make Earth stronger, smarter, and more united than ever before. We have an opportunity to create a new era, one where humanity takes its rightful place among the stars." As Alex finished his speech, a wave of applause spread throughout the room. There was a sense of excitement in the air. People knew that the future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, it felt like they had control over it. Earth had been battered and bruised, but it had survived. Now, it was time to heal. The Earth Council, a group of global leaders that had formed during the war to coordinate humanity's defense efforts, began discussing the next steps for rebuilding the planet. The war had left the planet in ruins, but the human spirit remained unbroken. The first priority was to restore the Earth's cities, provide for the millions who had lost everything, and begin the long process of healing. Across the world, engineers, scientists, and workers were already getting to work. New technologies, developed during the war, would be used to help rebuild faster and more efficiently. The hypercannon, once the weapon that had saved Earth, now had a new role. It would be repurposed for energy production, providing clean, sustainable power to the planet for generations to come. The world's energy needs were no longer a concern, and humanity could focus on more important things: growth, progress, and peace. But rebuilding Earth was only part of the story. The war with the Galactic Empire had opened humanity's eyes to the vastness of the universe and the many dangers that lay beyond their home planet. The Empire was gone, but there were still countless other species, civilizations, and threats out there in the galaxy. Humanity had to be prepared for whatever came next. The defeat of the Galactic Empire was just the beginning. "Captain, we've received a message," one of the officers said, breaking Alex's thoughts. He turned to see a screen flashing with a communication from one of the newly established space stations orbiting Earth. The message was from a coalition of alien species that had been watching the war unfold. They had once been part of the Empire's vast network of planets and civilizations, Now, with the Empire's collapse, they were searching for new allies. "We have much to offer, but we seek your guidance," the message began. "The Empire's fall has left us with an uncertain future. We have no home, no leadership, but we believe that humanity, with its courage and ingenuity, can help us rebuild." Alex stared at the screen. It was an unexpected message, but it was clear that the galaxy's power dynamics were shifting. The end of the Empire had created a vacuum, and new alliances were forming. Humanity, once seen as weak and insignificant, was now in a position to lead. Rebuilding trust. Back on Earth, the leaders of the newly formed United Earth Federation began discussing what this new era meant. Diplomacy and cooperation would be key. No longer could Earth afford to focus solely on itself. The war had taught humanity the importance of unity, and now, Earth would take its place as a force for peace and stability in the galaxy. "We have the opportunity to change the course of history," President Elena Rivera said during a meeting with Alex. "For too long, we've been isolated, focusing on our own problems. Now we have a chance to connect with the wider galaxy, to show what humanity can really do." Alex nodded. "We've earned our place, but we need to tread carefully. There are many unknowns out there, and not all of them will be friendly. We've seen the consequences of underestimating our enemies, but we've also seen the power of unity. If we stay true to our values, we can build a future where humanity leads with wisdom, compassion, and strength." The Earth Federation began sending out ambassadors, not with weapons, but with the message of hope and cooperation. These diplomats would reach out to the alien species that had once been part of the Empire, offering Earth's support in rebuilding their civilizations. The goal was not to dominate the galaxy, but to create partnerships based on mutual respect and shared values. A few months after the fall of the Empire, the first official intergalactic peace summit was held. Leaders from Earth and several alien civilizations gathered on a neutral station in deep space, a place where the past could be set aside and the future could be built. Alex was part of the Earth delegation, and as he stood before the assembled leaders, he couldn't help but think about how far humanity had come. Just a year ago, Earth had been on the brink of destruction. Now it was taking its first steps into the wider galaxy. The summit was tense at first. There was suspicion, lingering mistrust from both sides. Many of the alien species had suffered under the Empire's rule, and some feared that humanity might be trying to impose its own vision of order on them. But over the course of the summit, trust began to build. Earth's representatives spoke of peace, cooperation, and mutual progress. They shared their plans for rebuilding their world and offered technology to help the other species do the same. They did not demand allegiance, but instead, they sought friendship. In the end, the summit was a success. A new era had begun, one where Earth would play a key role in guiding the galaxy toward peace and unity. Humanity had proven itself on the battlefield, and now it would prove itself through diplomacy, innovation, and compassion. As Alex gazed out the window of the Earth Defense Command Center once more, he reflected on how much had changed. The planet had been on the verge of destruction, but now it was thriving again. The war had scared the world, but it had also brought out the best in humanity. The courage, resilience, and unity that had been demonstrated during the darkest times would continue to guide them in the years to come. Humanity had faced the impossible, and it had come out stronger on the other side. They had learned from their mistakes, worked together, and built a future that was brighter than they could have imagined. Alex turned away from the window and walked down the corridor. He had fought to protect Earth, and now he would fight to ensure its future. The galaxy was vast, full of potential and challenges. But humanity was no longer the underdog. They had earned their place in the stars, and they would make sure that the new era they had started would be one of peace, progress, and prosperity for all. The final battle was over, but the real work was just beginning. And Alex, along with the rest of humanity, was ready to embrace the challenges and opportunities of the new era ahead. A new chapter in the story of humanity had begun, and the possibilities were endless.